What are a sibling's rights after a parent's death? If your sibling passes away and does not leave a will, you're somewhat low on the priority scale for inheriting from them. If one or both of your parents are still alive, California's intestacy laws won't entitle you to anything. However, if your parents have passed away, you might inherit if your deceased sibling has no living spouse, domestic partner, children, or grandchildren. In these situations, all surviving siblings have equal rights to receive an inheritance from the deceased sibling. What are the inheritance rights of siblings? In general, siblings have no legal right to inherit their deceased sibling's property. If your sibling left a will and did not include you in it, it's improbable that you'll get anything. However, if you were disinherited, meaning you were named as a beneficiary in a previous will or trust, but excluded from the most recent version, you might be able to override that disinheritance if you can successfully challenge that document. You'll need to pursue a contest to enforce your rights. Another way you could end up with an inheritance when you're left out of the will or trust is if all the named beneficiaries are deceased. Depending on what family members are still living, you may be entitled to receive your sibling's assets through the intestacy laws. What are half-siblings' rights after their parents pass? California intestacy laws give half-relatives the same legal rights as full-blooded relatives. This means that half-siblings have the same inheritance rights as full siblings. Even if your shared parent has passed away, you'll be treated exactly the same as a full-blooded sibling when it comes to inheriting from a deceased sibling. What is intestate succession? Intestate succession is the process of distributing estate assets when an individual dies without a will, or when they have a will, but all named beneficiaries are deceased. In California, the probate code covers the intestate laws that control how your sibling's estate property is going to be distributed if they pass without a will. However, it's important to note that intestacy laws only apply to assets that would have been disposed of by a will if there was one. Excluded assets are generally owned jointly or name a beneficiary upon the owner's death. So the surviving co-owner or the beneficiary are the ones who are going to inherit those assets. Those types of assets are commonly referred to as non-probate assets, non-probate transfers, or payable on death, or POD, transfers. Also, assets owned in trust generally are not going to be part of the probate estate. Let's look at a few examples of how California intestacy laws would distribute your deceased sibling's assets depending on some specific circumstances. First, if your sibling was married with surviving children, the spouse and the children would share the assets. As a sibling, you wouldn't get anything. Second, if your sibling was married with no surviving children or grandchildren and at least one surviving parent, the surviving spouse and parent would inherit the assets. As a sibling, again, you would get nothing. Third, if your sibling was unmarried but had children, all estate assets would pass equally to the children or to surviving grandchildren if one or more child had predeceased that sibling. Yet again, as a sibling, you get nothing. Fourth, if your sibling was unmarried and had no surviving children or grandchildren, your parents would inherit everything. Once again, as a sibling, you take nothing. Fifth, if your sibling was married with no surviving children, grandchildren, or parents, their spouse would be entitled to the community property and one half of your sibling's separate property. All the siblings would equally split the remaining one half of the separate property. Sixth, if your sibling was unmarried with no surviving children, grandchildren, or parents, then the siblings take the entire estate and split it equally. As you can see, there are limited situations where you can inherit as a sibling. If your sibling has passed away without a will, a knowledgeable estate lawyer can help you understand who will inherit your sibling's property and how much each of them will get. When should I contact an estate attorney? If you've been disinherited from a sibling's will or your sibling passes away without a will, you should contact an estate attorney as soon as possible. The sooner you seek counsel, the higher your chances of securing your rightful inheritance. While you typically cannot challenge inheritances awarded under California's intestate succession laws, you might be able to file a claim to receive more than your mandated intestate share. It's complicated. An estate attorney can explain your legal rights and advise you on the strengths of your case and how you should proceed. Have questions? We protect people like you every day. Give us a call, shoot us an email. Consultation's always free. Thanks for watching.